इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। हम चले नेक रास्ते पे, हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना। हम चले नेक रास्ते पे, हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। दूर अज्ञान के हो अंधेरे, तू हमें ज्ञान की रोशनी दे। दूर अज्ञान के हो अंधेरे, तू हमें ज्ञान की रोशनी दे। हर बुराई से बच के रहे हम, हर बुराई से बचते रहे हम। जितनी भी बड़ी जिंदगी बैर होना किसी का किसी से, भावना मन में बदले होना। हम चले नेक रास्ते पे, हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। हम न सोचे हमें क्या मिला है, हम ये सोचे किया क्या है अर्पण। हम न सोचे हमें क्या मिला है, हम ये सोचे किया क्या है अर्पण। फूल खुशियों के बाटे सभी को, फूल खुशियों के बाटे सभी को। सबका जीवन ही बन जाए मधुवन हो। अपनी करुणा का जल तू बहाके, कर दे पावन हर एक मन का कोना। हम चले नेक रास्ते पे, हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। ओम जय गंगे माता, मैया जय गंगे माता। जो नर तुमको ध्याता, जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता, मन वांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। चंद्र से ज्योति तुम्हारी जल निर्मल आता।
मैया जल निर्मल आता, शरण पड़े जो तेरे, शरण पड़े जो तेरे, सो नर तर जाता।
ओम जय गंगे माता। एक ही बार जो तेरी शरणागति आता।
मैया शरणागति आता,
यम की त्रास मिटा कर, यम के कष्ट मिटा कर, परम गति पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। मंगलकारी मैया
तू है सुखदाता, मैया तू है सुखदाता। तेरी गोद में आकर, तेरी शरण में आकर, मन शांति पाता।
ओम जय गंगे माता। आरती
मात तुम्हारी जो जन्मित गाता, मैया प्रेम सहित गाता। दास वही है सच में, भक्त वही है सच में, मुक्ति को पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता, जय गंगे माता, मैया जय गंगे माता। जो नर तुमको ध्याता, जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता, मनवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता, जय गंगे माता, जय गंगे माता। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव।
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः,
सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। जय जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल। जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल। ओ जय जय राधा रमण, जय जय राधा रमण, जय जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल। ओ जय जय राधा रमण, जय जय राधा रमण, जय जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल। ओ जय जय राधा रमण, जय जय राधा रमण, जय जय राधा रमण, हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण,
Radha Ramana Hari Bol.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol Hari Bol. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol. Jai Radha Ramana
Hari Bol
Hari Bol. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol.
The only way to actually have the experience of reincarnation and rebirth requires either that we have personally very clear, very convincing memories of past births, which the overwhelming majority of us don't. I mean, there is a reason that curtains drop. And I'll tell you, when people go to Puja Swamiji and ask him about their past births or past lives, he always tells people, first figure this one out. Do not allow yourself to get wrapped up in, oh, what was I before? What was I before? That was. If you've figured this one out, you've got a lot of extra time and space on your plate, sure. But at the sake of not giving the time and attention to this one, don't give it to past births. So the question becomes challenging because the only way to have that direct experience is either to remember a past birth or to die now, hoping that you're going to stay conscious into wherever you're going, which of course we have no guarantee that you will. The other way to do it, though, here's what I would say, is don't require that you have direct experience of rebirth and reincarnation in order to believe it. If I say to you, there is an electrical outlet, stick your fingers in it, are you going to do it? No, why wouldn't you do it? Have you ever stuck your fingers in an electrical outlet before? So why wouldn't you do it now? Done it before. How do you know what's going to happen? Really, how do you know what's going to happen?
Yeah, I see other people who...
Huh, right? Seen other people do it. And even if you haven't actually seen someone do it, presumably at some point in your life, someone you trust, a parent, a teacher, said to you, do not stick your fingers in that outlet because you will get electrocuted. And you didn't need to test it for yourself because you had faith in the person who taught you that. And then maybe, should you be the scientific type, maybe as you grew, you started studying a bit about electricity and you started actually understanding how it worked. But I mean, I don't have any idea how electricity works, and I still wouldn't stick my finger in a socket because I believe all the people who have told me that I would get electrocuted. The reason I give you that example is, in order to believe in it, you don't need to actually have experienced everything. If I say to you, jump off the roof, would you do it? Why? Other people die, of course, but they die because there's this thing called the law of gravity. Now, I don't need to have personally experienced that law of gravity. People I trust, teachers, books I trust, maybe I've studied it in school, that guy Newton, right? He gave us these laws of physics. We study them, we understand it, we believe it. We don't actually have had to have the apple fall on our head or fall off a building in order to believe in gravity. And so for this, allow yourself the possibility of believing something even without personal experience of it. If people you know, either personally or you know them through studying their body of work, have said this, if lineages you have faith in, Hinduism, Buddhism, have said this, if scientists you have trust in, the ones who make the documentaries, the ones who write the books, if you have faith in them, allow yourself the possibility of believing it the same way that you believe in the electricity that's in the socket even though you don't know it, or the law of gravity even though the apple didn't fall on your head. That's one way in. Here's another way in. In rebirth and reincarnation, I keep getting new bodies, but there's one part that's the same, right? That's soul. When Lord Krishna's talking about the soul being eternal, never born, never died. Well, if I can have an experience of soul, then I don't necessarily have to have had an experience of my body dying and being reborn. Because in my experience of that which isn't my body, I can understand how it could take other forms. I understand how it's not contingent upon this body, which by default means it existed before the body existed. It will exist after the body exists. So even though I don't necessarily have the experience of remembering a past life or the experience of dying and being reborn, if I can connect with my soul, with myself, in meditation, if I can have an experience of the part of me that isn't this body, that isn't the physical body, that isn't my brain, that isn't my mind or my emotions or my thoughts, then I tap into that which is taking new bodies. So that would be another way in. And I think if you do both, you're probably close enough. But here's the very last piece of that. If you don't actually believe in reincarnation and rebirth, don't worry. Really, I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as you believe in the existence of your soul. Because otherwise, it's all about just the body. Then it becomes just eat, drink, and be merry. So whether you believe that the soul takes birth once and this is it, or whether you believe it keeps taking birth, either way, don't worry. As long as you understand, you're not the body. You have a body. You need to use the body, but you're not it. And the last piece, though, that I would want to say to you about the video game is that's not actually why we're here. And yes, it is mind-blowing. The teaching that I've heard is, imagine a mountain, a mile high, a mile wide. Okay? That's a tall mountain. Mile high and a mile wide. And imagine that once every 100 years, a bird that has a silk scarf in its beak flies over that mountain and rubs the silk scarf across the mountain once every 100 years. The amount of time it takes the silk scarf to erode the mountain is as long as we have been doing this. Now that shatters my mind as well. But instead of it feeling like a video game, because the video game is the I am my body, I am my mind. I am the one shooting down asteroids, or I am the one, playing this race car, or I'm the one who has to, climb the ladders. You can tell I haven't played video games in about 30 years. It's all... Right, yeah, exactly. It's all Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, and you know what? Now, those were sort of my last video games, asteroids. But nonetheless, whatever video game it may be, that's assuming I am the body. That's assuming that I'm here identified as the body. I'm the one fighting them off. I'm the one climbing. I'm the one jumping. Oh my God, I lost my life. But if you can identify as the one who's been doing it, as long as that bird has been running its silk scarf over the mile-high, mile-wide mountain, it actually brings about an element of peace. Because suddenly, your dinner that didn't have enough salt in it doesn't matter much. This person who was supposed to meet you who's half an hour late, it doesn't matter so much. But it shouldn't detach us completely. And I mention this because when you say, I'm getting fully detached from it, it feels like a video game, that's not actually the highest goal. It's a great place along the way, because otherwise you are the character in the video game. So that's obviously not where we want to be. Becoming the player of the video game, it's better. But ultimately, that still is of this body. I'm playing that game. I'm moving the joystick. I'm hitting the missiles or whatever. That's not who we are either. And the point is not how detached can I get from it, but rather in it, because I have a body for a reason, in it, in this life, rather than seeing it as a video game to play. How can I see it as a duty to fulfill? Because that's what we're here for. It's not about winning or playing till your quarter runs out. It's about using the experience to recognize who you really are. And when you do, then actually the urge to get out of here and be done dissipates. Because the experience here actually becomes a lot more pleasant. The experience here is something that we're running from only as long as I'm identified as this body. And so we actually stay connected, very connected, to the creation, because it is a manifestation of the Creator. So the goal is not detach, disconnect, become indifferent. The goal is reattach to the divine, to the truth, such that, yes, absolutely, your stress over little things, it will go perfect. Your identification with little things, it will go perfect. But your ability to use your body, to use your mind as a tool in God's hands to do your duty will increase. And that's what we're here for. It's not about how disconnected can you be. It's about how sincere can you be in fulfilling your duty, while at the same time knowing that, yeah, it's all a drama. And this is where Lord Krishna gives us that beautiful line, remember me and fight the war. Not either or. It's not get lost in the war. It's not identify with the war. But it's also not leave the war. Remember me. And the remember includes all of that. Remember who I am. Remember that I'm you. Remember who you are, because if I'm you, then remembering me is remembering you. Remember all of that. And fight the war. And fight it well. Fight it fully. Fight it sincerely. And remember me. The renunciation of what we call a worldly life, meaning vows of celibacy. So, okay, no family on that sense, no husband, no wife, no children. Renunciation of the attachment to the immediate family. So it's not that my mind is worried about them, or that I'm being constantly influenced by, oh my God, but my mom said this, or no. So, renunciation of that attachment. Renunciation of working for yourself. So we don't go out and have day jobs. It's not about how much money can I earn and put in my bank account so that I can then, go shopping. But it's not a renunciation of the world. And that's a very important distinction. When they talk about a renunciation of samsara, it's a renunciation of my attachment to, my being caught up in that wheel. It's not a renunciation of the world that exists. It's the exact opposite. Take the Buddha. Yeah, he went and sat under the tree, meditated, attained enlightenment, and then what did he do? He got up, brushed himself off, and went straight back to the village to share the teachings. That was his duty. He had been born as a prince, protected from the truth of the world, protected from ever seeing illness, ever seeing death, ever seeing handicap. And when he finally saw that, when he finally realized, oh my God, I'm going to die one day. That guy on the stretcher one day will be me. So what in the world is the purpose of the accumulation of more and more jewels, more and more gold, more and more wealth, more and more horses and soldiers? And I need to find out the real truth. And so he left to find it out. And once he found it, he fulfilled his duty by coming back and sharing it. And so sometimes it's important to come out of the world that we're stuck to for a little while, even if we're going to go back to it, in order to experience that truth. But even those who have renounced forever, what we've renounced is just the smallness of it. So we've renounced my family, my parents, my children. Because to most people, that's how it is. I have, my 2 parents, maybe I have 4, some in-laws, a couple of kids. Those are mine. When you renounce the world, It's not that you disconnect from the world. It's that the world becomes your family. So we have renounced the smallness of it. It's a renunciation of working for me as in this individual body. That bank account with my name on it. My ATM card. But it's working for me still, but with an awareness of the wholeness of me, which is all of creation. And I'll tell you something on a personal level. In the 22 years I've been here, the most enlightened saints, the ones in whose presence you really feel like you are in the presence of God. My Guru Pujya Swamiji, not just included, but right there at the top, but others as well, have been the ones who are the most deeply connected to the creation. A mother, when her child is crying in the next room, even if she's practicing what she thinks is tough love and okay, somebody's told her, let the kid cry, don't keep going in. She may sit in the living room on her hands, but her mind and her heart is there with the crying child. And eventually most of them give up the tough love thing, and they can't not. The enlightened masters respond to the world like that. The world is crying, whether it's crying of hunger, whether it's crying of sickness, whether it's a river crying that it's being dried up and polluted, trees crying that they're being cut down, species of birds crying that their habitat is being cut down, whatever it may be, whatever form or language energetically those tears may take, they hear them, they feel them. And so they respond. And this is why, if you look at the most enlightened masters, not even just living today, but throughout history, they have been the ministers to the poor. They have been the ones in service. Whether in service through teaching, like the Buddha, or whether in actual service of opening hospitals and schools and whatever it may be. So it's not either or, it's both. The thing we need to be detached from is our identification with just this. That's what makes us stuck. Me, mine, I. My family, my wife, my husband, my kids, the college my kids are going to get into, the job my kids are going to get, how big my house is compared to the guy across the street, who's talking to me how, my bank account, my physical body. That's what makes us stuck. So we renounce that attachment. And it may absolutely require getting out of that situation temporarily, even if you're going to go back to it. That's why traditionally people come to ashrams, even if they're going to go back, in order to have that experience. There is no guru I know worth his salt who would say to a man, leave your wife and newborn child and find God. There is, I know, we're going to come back. I know where he's going. But just in a room full of people who, and people listening who may think where we're going. Who's going to say that? Because they need to be taken care of. When the Buddha did it, though, there were two aspects of that. One aspect is, remember, the Buddha was a prince. His wife, his child, were very well taken care of. That's one piece. The other piece is the Buddha's karma was such. His mother was told, your son is either going to be, there's only two ways he can go. Either he's going to become this great powerful emperor, or he's going to become a complete renunciant. So if we believe in karma, destiny in that way, we know there were only two ways to go. And the way of the emperor was definitely not the way of truth. And so for him, it became about the way of truth. But I'll tell you something. If his wife, and if he was not a prince, and they lived in a shack on the edge of the forest, and the Buddha was the sole bread earner of the family, I don't know. I can't claim to know exactly what he thought or what he would think if he came today. But my awareness of the Buddha is not one that it was about causing harm to others. Pain is always there. Pain is always there in life. If they didn't lose him that time, they're going to die at some point. We always go through that pain. It's inevitable. It's the only thing that's inevitable. But they were being very well taken care of, and he knew that. So when you talk about a regular man leaving a newborn and a wife, this is not something we want to give people ideas of. And as I said, I don't know any guru who would accept a man in those circumstances, unless they came from logistic circumstances like the Buddha, and there happened to be an entire palace there, ready to take care of his family that he had left behind. But also remember, lastly, that our duties, they change also at different times in life. And so this is where in Indian tradition we talk about, the 4 ashrams of life. So our duty in our brahmacharya ashram is to study, to learn. Not just in school, but brahmacharya, to learn about God. And then we move into our householder phase. Our duty in the grihastha ashram phase is to be a householder. Take care of your family. And then we move into the vanprastha ashram stage. Our children are married. They're set. They're done. We slowly pull away. And then the sannyasa ashram phase. The decades before we leave the body, the golden years. Sannyasa ashram. So it's not that we come onto earth with one singular duty. We have different duties, or even 4 singular duties, and I've just given it in a very universal way, but we each have our own duties even within those ashrams. So the duty of a father in the grihastha ashram phase is to take care of his family. But in the case of the Buddha, remember, his family was already taken care of. He had a completely different situation. His duty, his real duty on earth, was to be the Buddha. And that was superimposed upon any other temporary duties that he may have had at different phases. Lord Ram's duty as a king was superimposed over his duty as a husband and father. Otherwise, you could say the same thing about him. How could he leave Sita Ma and his children? Well, because he had a duty as a king. He had a duty as the embodiment of Dharma. But again, they were well taken care of. In a different way, but also well taken care of. And so it's important also to remember that it's not duty in a vacuum. There are cases where a crucial duty of one's life takes precedence over individual temporary duties. And we could come up with a million examples of this. You're an employee in your office. You've got a duty to do what your boss says. Then you get a phone call that your child has just been in a car accident. You're going to keep filing papers? It's not 5 o'clock yet? You've got a duty to be here till 5 o'clock? Well, of course not. Your duty as a father takes precedence over your duty as a file clerk. And so this is it's a minute by minute, moment by moment sometimes question, because we all have lots of duties in life. What takes precedence? What's a higher calling, a higher duty? But whatever it is, to remember to do it. Fully, sincerely, actively, fearlessly. There is an absence of thoughts that comes, but it's not permanent. Not for me anyway yet. Should that day come, that would be lovely. But see, here's the thing. Thoughts themselves are not bad. As long as we're not at their mercy, thoughts are wonderful. I can think about people I love. I can feel love. I can think about God and feel love and joy and ecstasy. I can think about projects and plans to benefit people. The mind is actually a wonderful tool. Thoughts are wonderful. The problem is when we are at their mercy. When they're in charge and we're the slave. So with meditation, it's not so much about stopping all thoughts. It's about recognizing that you actually do have control over them. So a thought may come that isn't really very useful. And if you've been meditating for a while, what you notice is, A, you're aware of it very quickly. So it's not that it doesn't come at all, but it's that you can see it from far away. And you're able to see it and recognize it. And then have a different thought instead. So for example, you're driving down the freeway. Somebody cuts you off, right? Initial instinct, idiot. Right? Who the hell do they think they are? My God, are they blind? Don't they see what's happening to our world today? Okay. But if you've been meditating, somebody cuts you off. It's not that your heart doesn't start beating a little fast. It does. There was a survival instinct here. You had to slam on the brakes. There may be that momentary adrenaline rush. There may even be a moment of, my God. But long before you get to what the hell is our world coming to, you've recognized that you've had that reaction. You calm down. And then maybe you decide to substitute it for a different thought. I do this on a personal level. It's a habit I have. I'm a creative writer. I love to tell stories. I love to write stories. Some guys cut me off. Well, one way of thinking about that is, he's an idiot. He wasn't paying attention. He's just a symbol of our world that is going down the drain. Nobody cares about anybody anymore. It's all just, every man for himself. So that's one story. Another story is the man just got a phone call that his son was in an accident and is about to die in a hospital. And the doctors have told this guy, if you are not here within the next 3 minutes, you may not see your son alive. Right? So now you see the difference in how you feel inside about this guy who cut you off? Suddenly, on the one hand, he's an idiot. Our world is going to pieces. On the other hand, you're ready to clear traffic for him. Follow him to the hospital. See if you can do something for his son. And I have no idea if that's true. Probably it's not. But it's no less true than the guy's an idiot. And since I'm never going to know what's true because I don't know the guy, and he's zoomed down the highway, I'll never find out who he was, doesn't matter. What matters is how I feel. And I'd much rather live with thoughts that inspire compassion and love than thoughts that inspire anger. So you're able to see them and not react, not be a puppet, literally. As though your neurochemistry was just pulling your strings and you were going to dance accordingly. Angry now. Happy now, lustful now, greedy now. We're not puppets. So it gives you that. And the space that you get between the thoughts, because you do get that, it's just not permanent, as I said, gives you an experience of who you are that stays with you. Even though the thoughts come back, that experience stays with you. And so you're not your thoughts. Things tend not to bother you quite as much. So, the thoughts do stop. But the goal is not how to stop them forever. The goal is how to be in control. How to have the thoughts I want to have. And not have the thoughts I don't want to have.